Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into something new for KCC, r/NeckbeardStories. Now these stories are a little crazy and sometimes a little raunchy, but let me know down below whether you'd like to hear more of them on the channel and we can make that happen. Our first story today comes to us from Cardinal Cherry. My neckbeard ex had a traditional wife fetish. Let's jump right in. I'm not exactly sure where to even start with this roller coaster of a story. This happened a few years ago when I decided to go to Canada on a one-year college adventure. Not only was it my first time traveling alone, but it was the best experience for me to learn French. Now, I must say that I have no clue of the day-to-day life from the US, so it was a bit of a culture shock when I first arrived at the border. I would say it was unfortunate fate because my credentials weren't up to date or straight up couldn't be found, so I was stuck at the border for a little while. This is where I met Neckbeard. Let's call him A. A and I met in one of those airport cafes, and we surprisingly hit it off well. He seemed smart and a responsible young adult, totally not what you could expect from a neckbeard. Aside from the milady part, he did that thing. And upon hearing my situation, he proposed I could stay with him. "I got an extra room. You won't need to pay for a hotel," he said. Now, I thank my paranoid of a mother drilling fear into any type of human interaction, because in that moment, I felt something was off about A. I wasn't sure what it was, but I refused his offer. He was a little older than me, and I wasn't comfortable living alone with a man, a stranger, for an X amount of time. I stayed in a hotel for a couple of nights, and A kept me company most of the time, showing me around places near the border. He still brought up the idea of staying with him every so often, but I kept brushing him off. He started to be very persistent the more we waited, saying how nice his house is, that he lived very close to the airport, etc. Just about anything to try and convince me to stay at his place. I never backed down. Finally, when I was indeed able to pass the border, I thought that would be the last I'd see of A, but some dumb part of me gave him my phone number and promised to meet up time to time. This eventually led for him to try and push a relationship with me. Now, I still felt off about A, but over the months of my stay in Canada, I had grown to know him. So I thought, why not? It's just a basic short relationship, and once I go back home, it will be the end of it, right? This is Neckbeard Stories. Nothing ever goes smoothly. I learned very quickly that A had certain tastes. He liked me best when I'm wearing dresses and heels, would turn up his nose when I'm wearing sweatpants and boy clothing, wanted me to wear his gifts, girly things only, liked to watch me cook for him and clean my dorm. He didn't help, but he liked to watch. Creepy. He liked me when I put pop music instead of my usual rock, and quickly made it clear that my nerdy tastes in anime, video games, comics, etc. weren't his cup of tea. But that doesn't include him, of course, because he gets to like anime, video games, and comics, but not me. We once had a fight about this, and I hurt his feelings by saying his favorite anime sucked. I still don't regret it. There were moments where he tried to teach me to be a better cook so I can make him better meals, how to clean better, how to walk, talk, and even smile around his friends. So the relationship was going great. He was especially disgusted in my pagan and witchcraft interests, something that I truly identify with myself, and hearing him call me a weirdo and other hurtful things really brought my trust in him practically down to a zero. Still, for some unknown reason, I remained with him while walking around on eggshells. Breaking my confidence must have been part of his plan, because as soon as I stopped being so vocal about my interests, he started to praise me for being so obedient, nice and caring, and, worst of all, wife material. It was like he was checking off some checklist. Who the F was this guy? The guy from the airport was decent at best, but this man that I was dating treated me like some sort of China doll that he obsessed over. This isn't without mentioning the jealousy if men so much look in my general direction, not letting me do any heavy lifting, expecting me to be available at any beck and call like some canary. Even his friends seemed aware of his excessive behavior and said I wasn't the first he had done this to. I was sick of it. I just wanted to go home and never go near this man ever again. But it gets worse. I'm very close to my family. It's a very cultural thing. So the culture shock of A telling me he hasn't called his parents mom and dad in years and had moved away at 18 and was totally an independent man. I guess that it's easy when you live in your dad's summer home, living the American dream, I guess, whatever. This means I received many texts and calls from my parents, something that A found weird and like the rest of my existence. But he was shocked above all that my parents didn't look like me. My whole family is very dark-skinned, but I was born extremely pale. So anyone that doesn't know me wouldn't put the connections. And A threw a fit. "Why didn't you tell me your family was black?" I was confused. My hometown is very diverse, so I didn't see the issue with mentioning my family's ethnicity. He always knew I was a foreigner, so I didn't think he had an issue with it. I didn't think you'd care. You know I'm not from here. "Are you adopted?" Now I'm getting agitated. It's been months of this questioning. I'm tired. My self-worth is non-existent, and the last thing I needed was him making me feel like more of an alien. What? No. Why would you think that? "No reason. You're perfect. But your family?" My family is what? "Well, I just don't want our children to have their genes." Excuse me? Children? This man, honest to God, thought I wanted to spend 1 second in his bed and have his children? A and I never had sex during my stay. He pushed the idea and tried to start something, but I never gave in. A, I'm 19. I have a whole life ahead of me. I don't want your children. A didn't take that well. We continued to scream for a while between his expectations of what I should be to him and my own ambitions. It almost got so bad that the student next door to me knocked on the door to check on us. I soon kicked A out and never saw him again, at least until the very end of the year. A was being extremely quiet, something that was never normal, and it was honestly freaking me out. While I was getting ready to leave and finally go home, I got a call from A's best friend. Let's call him B. B was also a decent guy. I could say we were friends for the time I dated A, but he was also well aware of my hate for A at this point, so much so that he strictly told A that I hated him. I assumed he was on my side out of pity, maybe knowing this wasn't the first time A has had trouble with women, go figure. So I tell him everything that happened, how A has been treating me with this weird obsession in being the perfect wife, and his issues with my family's ethnicity. Not me, of course. I have the perfect skin tone, so it's okay. Yes, he said that. And told him I would be leaving, so just to pass the message, I'm done with him. I wanted nothing to do with A. If he was being a coward somewhere, that wasn't my issue. I had my plane ticket, and I wouldn't have to go anywhere near him ever again. But I guess it was too good to be true, because A appeared at the airport. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "I'm here to pick you up." My blood ran cold. Pick me up? What for? I'm going home. He starts to get aggressive really quickly, and it honestly scares me. I had refused most of the advances that A made towards me, and thankfully, he wasn't forceful with his intimidating height. He was like 6'4" compared to me, 5'2". He was freakishly tall. But this time he seemed to get sick of my resistance, something that thankfully never broke from me.
"Listen to me. You're gonna stop this nonsense already, and you're gonna get in my car and go back home with me."
I truly felt like crying. I had a feeling that if I step into that forsaken summer house of his, I would never leave ever again. "I'm not going anywhere with you. Leave me alone, A." And I ran. Yes, it was childish, but I was scared, and I'm tiny. I can hide pretty easily in the crowd, so A lost sight of me fairly quickly. The bastard had the audacity to stay in the airport until my flight was called, and finally, I was heading back home. I remember crying inside the plane, and once I arrived back home, I was terrified of seeing him there waiting for me. Thankfully, I don't think he followed me. I remained paranoid for months after it happened, and I truly think he would have gone after me if he knew where I lived. He never bothered to learn about my hometown. And after months of nothing, I finally could breathe. Definitely never going back to Canada. Thank you for reading. I didn't add any of these to the story, but I thought I should add because they are just that ridiculous. A made it very clear I should sit a certain way when out for dinner. He always compared me to his ex, saying she cheated on him for someone better. And now that I think about it, I don't blame her. Cheating is still bad, but dealing with A was an effing nightmare. He constantly judged my looks and almost always liked to choose my clothing, and even tried to throw away some of them. A really liked the color gray and convinced me once to change my hair from red to gray. It completely fried my hair, and I had to get a pixie cut soon after the breakup. Whenever I acted out of line, he would always talk in a patronizing way of how I shouldn't scream at him because it made me look crazy, and it was simply not how a woman should act. He pretty much blamed me for any inconveniences, even when he had no money, and said I was too high maintenance. I didn't even want his stupid gifts. One time, I brought a gift from my hometown, and he completely judged the hell out of it because the packaging had a little bit of sand on it. A had this little thought that I lived in poverty because it's not the US, so the sand thing just made my gift look cheap to him. I usually try to be really impartial with my comments at the end of these stories. Sometimes my true thoughts come out. The true thought on this one that pops right into my head is that this guy is a gigantic dick. I'm glad OP was able to get away. I hope OP finds somebody that treats them with the respect that they deserve and wish them nothing but the best going forward. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our second story today comes to us from this person. The airport neckbeard who kept looking at my phone. Let's jump right in. So I'm in New Mexico right now, and when I was flying here, I had an intense run-in with a neckbeard. Now, this isn't as interesting or long as some stories, but important info, I'm a 15-year-old girl. So my mom had dropped me off at the airport, and I walked to the place where my plane is. I don't know what it's called, but I sat there on my phone. And I was sitting at a place where almost all of the seats around me were free, so there was no reason someone should have sat next to me. Then, this man came up and sat down next to me. This man had a My Little Pony bag, a black shirt, and ripped jeans that were 7 sizes too small. I don't know why he chose to sit next to me, but I guess a skinny goth girl was what he wanted. And I must add, you really couldn't tell my age from me having bangs that covers my eyes and having to wear a mask, plus I'm 5'6" and the boots I wear make me 5'11". Anyways, I ignored him and continued scrolling TikTok with the guy more than obviously looking at my phone until there was a video of an emo girl in a short skirt dancing. Now, I literally don't care what people post, and I didn't care that he was watching, but this was one of my mutuals, an IRL friend I go to school with. So as I do, I looked over at the guy who looked away from my phone the second I moved my head. And I went back to my phone. I saw him look back with eyes that showed interest in what's on my screen. I went to the comments and typed, "She's 14," and stopped looking at my phone. I don't know if the guy saw it, but I think he did because he stopped looking at my phone from what I saw. So not very exciting, but it was annoying for me. I'd say that was a pretty good call out, but there's another thing here, because if you run into a situation like that, you could number 1, move seats, number 2, tell the person that you're uncomfortable, number 3, find somebody in there of authority and let them know what's going on as well. This guy's making me uncomfortable. Can you put me somewhere where I don't have to deal with him? Thanks. Our last story today comes to us from 4-Foot Dumb Bum. My brother is a neckbeard and my mom is an insane parent. Let's jump right in. So, as implied in the title, these people are my immediate family, and I want to start by saying I love them both dearly, so please, no hate to them. All that being said, the fact remains, my brother is a neckbeard and my mom is an insane parent. For a quick background, my brothers, twins, are technically my cousins by blood, but through the wilderness that is custody, my mom raised them as my siblings from like age 4. They were tragically premature, and both have a crazy list of physical and mental issues because of it. The neckbeard brother, NB for short, is verbal and capable of taking care of himself, enough to go to school and live a pretty much normal life. His mental health is unknown to me because my mom prefers to focus on physical things. My mom is also diagnosed with her own mental health issues that she ignores in favor of her own fragile physical well-being. I'm getting off track here, but that is pretty much all the info that matters. So I am in my mid-20s and don't live at home anymore. My brothers have only recently turned 18, and my mother is working to get full custody, as there's simply no way the twins will ever be able to live independently. Neckbeard has been displaying neckbeard behavior his whole life: dislike for hygiene, intense love of video games, to the point he will soil himself while playing, and the way he interacts with other people is hard to watch. He isn't mean or outright awful, you can just tell he isn't sure how to talk with others. I realized it had been some time since I had visited home a few weeks ago, so I stopped by, and my mom, who I will choose to call Delusional Mom, began to tell me something that nearly made me sick. That brother of yours just won't listen to anything, always on that game. He went nearly 2 weeks without a bath. Ew, try taking his controller away. I do, he just plays in the water for a few minutes, then leaves the tub dirty as hell. It got to the point where I had to physically give him a bath and watch him brush his teeth. Record scratch, you bathed him? Yes, he's 18 years old and you gave his grown butt a bath? She saw no problem with what she was saying, as if she said she had to wash the dishes that he was meant to wash yesterday. Immediately I tried to talk with my brother, telling him that he should not be okay with his mother cleaning him like that when he is fully capable of doing it himself. I even tried to fight dirty and say even his twin, who is nonverbal and barely capable of walking, can run his own bathwater and clean himself with moderate supervision and assistance. Nothing I said seemed to matter to Neckbeard. It's faster when she does, and I don't have to clean the tub. At that point, I realized this was a lost cause. If he wasn't willing to try cleaning himself, then there wasn't a point in trying to convince him. To my knowledge, this gross thing is still happening, and I don't know how to stop it, or if it's even my business, because I don't have to deal with Neckbeard and his horrendous body odor. I'm definitely not qualified to comment on things about mental issues or psychological problems, but one thing I can say is that mom is probably under a lot of stress in this situation, so you may not think it's right that mom actually put the 18-year-old boy into the bathtub, but you know what? If that smell was in my house, I'd probably do the same too. Either that, or I'd be chasing them around with spray deodorant and Febreze, I don't know, something like that. Check out all 3 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching, have yourself a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.